Bada bing, bada boom. You know what it is. Last card of the year. That's a wrap, baby. What a night of fights, man. That was insane. We had a bunch of good finishes. Goosey, what are your thoughts, bro? What a main event. Jared Cannonier, Sean Strickland. That was a close fight.
Dude, I got to give it to the UFC. They gave us an absolute banger card, great fights to end the year on, and now we're stuck twiddling our thumbs for the next month, or at least 2 weeks until we get the Bellator versus one showdown on New Year's Eve.
No, yeah, that's gonna be so fire. I wish that we could get UFC involved in this kind of stuff. 5v5. That's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
amazing. But dude, let's get into this card, bro. Because from the beginning to the end, I mean, there was some hidden gems on this guy that people didn't want to talk about, but they ended up panning out being really dope. I mean, let's get into here. What do you want to talk about first? I mean, I kind of want to get right into Bobby Green, Drew Dober, if you're asking
Oh,
me.
yeah, we can jump them to the start. We can jump them to the start because that was definitely the most electric fight of the night, in my opinion. So, yeah, get us going on that.
Yo, so I mean, the fight starts off. We're getting vintage Bobby Green. An extra fired up Bobby Green steps in, says no antics, gets in there, stares him down, talking that shit. I'd say he's pretty much schooling him through the first round. He's doing his thing. No takedowns allowed. Sticking that jab right in his face, connecting with twos, rolling with the shoulder. And then it just kind of started to build up, where Drew Dober started to get a little closer, a little bit more comfortable, started to land a little bit more. And then, that second round, he kind of gets him cooped up against the cage and just lands that big shot. Uh, couldn't have worn it any better, bro. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think starting off, man, Bobby Green's such an OG, and then Ward Dober. I mean, we had two top tier entertainers in the cage. That fight was always going to be absolute fireworks, and it was. Bobby said he was going to school him, and Bobby was schooling him. There's no other way to say the first round because he was piecing him up on the feet. Drew Dober goes for a takedown. Bobby Green ends up on top, and it just seems like he couldn't do anything wrong. Um, and then Drew Dober starts to get close. It was one of those fights where Bobby Green was just working it, like dodging raindrops out there, and it felt like one was going to hit. Um, and then Drew Dober, I mean, it's almost like he walks in there with a juggernaut suit on, and he can just take more damage than you can, and that's what happened in the fight. Bobby Green was piecing him. Drew Dober stuck to the game plan, kept on those leg kicks. I don't know if you saw, but Bobby Green had to switch stances. He was orthodox. He couldn't get that left shoulder or right shoulder up to cover the chin. Drew Dober banged it home, dropped him, fight over. Keith jumps in there, and insane fight of the night for sure. And the UFC validated that with the bonus.
For sure, bro. And then from the very beginning, we had, Sergey Morozov came out. He fought good. I mean, nothing too crazy, nothing too entertaining. A lot of control time in that fight is what I'll say for that. And then, we get Starboy coming out, and that was just a crazy matchup between David Dvorak and Manel Kopp, and not in like an entertaining way. It was just crazy because the tactical game plan that David Dvorak brought to the octagon last night was just so bizarre to me. Seeing his fight style in the past and the way that he's been coming out, it's just wild to see him on his bike. Like he was on his bike and he was not really willing to engage with Manel very much at all. He did, shoot a couple takedowns. That was kind of his thing, but Manel Kopp was kind of just chasing him the whole fight. And I agree with the, decision where, he was kind of landing all the damaging shots in that fight, not too much on Dvorak's side in return. And then, Brian Battle, bro. We were right. We had all the eggs in the Brian Battle basket. It didn't pan out. We knew it was going to be, a fight where he's fishing for subs. Couldn't exactly lock any of those home. Got popped on the feet. Fakhretdinov, really not entertaining in the sense where this guy was just going to lay on you, bro. So you got to be able to stuff those takedowns and light that guy up on the feet, or he's going to be a problem in the division. So, those first three fights, just wanted to break down that real quick. Rafa Garcia, absolute dog. What do you got? You got any takes on those first four that just popped up?
Yeah. So I'll stay away from Morozov Newsom. I think that was just your classic MMA fight, a little bit of striking, a little bit of grappling, kind of mixing it up the whole time. And Morozov stayed ahead of him. And in my thoughts and on the judges' scorecards. But jumping into Dvorak Cape, because that was a very interesting matchup. And like you said, Dvorak was on his bike for a lot of that fight. That's a testament to Cape's power because Starboy does go in there and throw some bombs. He just has a super interesting style for that flyweight division because he does a high power, low output. You see that at the heavier weight classes more where they can really put guys out. So at 125, it's really hard to just clean spark a guy. And Cape's not following these shots up a lot. So I think that's why he ends up in a lot of these close decisions where, like, if you can get more output than him or get the grappling going, you'll really make it tight. And it was tight, but Cape did do enough to edge it with some better shots, and he was rocking Dvorak in there. So no problem with that decision. Battle, that domination was surprising to me. I think I overrated Battle a little bit and then definitely underrated Renat because that dude is a problem. And I don't know what welterweight's going to want to fight him next because that absolute dominant performance, like you said, and then 30-25, you don't see that too often on the scorecard. So credit to Battle's toughness for staying in there. Credit to Renat's game plan for being able to last 15 minutes. And then Rafa Garcia, what a bloodbath. You know, he literally cut an artery on his head. They said it took him like 2 hours after the fight in the locker room to stop the bleeding, throwing out crazy numbers like he might have lost 20% of his blood, and he's just putting it all out there for the fans. What a performance. Mahashate, he's got a pretty good skill set. He's dangerous, just the grappling isn't there yet. But young guy, I could see him improving that and becoming a little bit of a problem in that division. But Rafa Garcia, he dogs it out and gets it done.
Yeah, for sure, bro. And then this next couple fights I want to get into, bro, the battle of the Seds, Sedin Magomedov versus Yakub Kakramanov. Holy shit, bro. This is one of the most high level, fast-paced fights of the year. I mean, a lot of these fights on this card, like Rafa Garcia versus Mashat, that was insane, bro. All the blood that's dripping everywhere, the way that Rafa comes back. And then, Matt Semmelsberger, Jake Matthews, that was super competitive. Obviously Semmelsberger landed a couple of those big shots at the end of a lot of those rounds that, snake those rounds. But let's get back into this Sed fight. I mean, Sedin Magomedov comes out. He's the Skeletor. This guy is so fucking scary to stand in front of. He is going to hit you with anything and everything he's got from every angle you can fucking imagine. And then, you got Sed Yakub, who's going to bring this super heavy grappling game plan. And it was effective. I mean, he was definitely winning the majority, if not a lot of the minutes of that fight. Sedin Magomedov, though, he's got that guillotine Ferda. He's got that Ferda guillotine where he just wraps that thing up and he cranks that elbow so damn high. That is just death. And, he catches him with it at the end of the second round. Definitely needed to. And I actually think that was like his last breath. I think that was his last burst. So hats off to Sedin Magomedov for pacing himself enough to get the finish at the end of the second, because if he doesn't get that finish, I don't know how that fight goes into the third round. And then
Yeah.
we were all over semi. So I mean, what do you think about those two fights?
I think a lot of people are gonna just give it to or really boost Said Yakub because he was having a dominant performance. But that's kind of Said Nurmagomedov's style. Like, he's so dangerous in there. He's always looking for you to make one mistake, and then he can take advantage and get you out of there. And he did that, because Said Yakub, he is a dominant grappler. If you didn't know, now you know, because he can go out there and get it done over guys with Nurmagomedov in their last name, ragdoll him for a round and a half. But he ended up slipping, leaving that neck out, and Said scooped it up, took it for 6. I think that Said Yakub, this is definitely a fight that is kind of one of those, it's not an L, it's a lesson, because I don't think his stock really goes down at all. People seem to be impressed with him. And then if he can learn from those slight mistakes, we have a real problem in this 135-pound division and Said Yakub here. So good performance. Geeks were all over it with that just Said catching him slipping and getting the finish. But good fight. And then on to the next. We got Semmelsberger versus Matthews. We were all over this one too. I mean, check the sheet. We had Semmelsberger. We didn't put knockout down there because we thought Jake Matthews could have been tough enough to get it all three, and tough enough he was because he got rocked in there a few times. And stylistically, I think that just Semmelsberger being the bigger, more explosive striker in there was all he needed. And it was a bad matchup for Jake Matthews. People were overhyping him a little bit off his last performance. And then Semmelsberger, I mean, sometimes you just get a guy that you have his number. Last night, Semmelsberger had Jake Matthews' number. He was rocking him, knocking him down, and then just putting damage on him throughout.
No, yeah, for sure, bro. And that was a super cool fight to watch. The commentating was superb as usual. I think it was Dom Cruz on the mic, talking about how it was, really that right hand versus that check hook. And that was just super dope to watch because Semmelsberger was just kept finding a way to land it in big spots, no matter how the rounds were going. We're moving into this next fight. I gotta get into this one. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk versus Cody Brundage. Dude, that guy's lethal. Man, he's got pop in his hands, bro. People sleep on this guy. They think that they can just wrestle him. Dude, it takes a lot more than just a wrestler to take this guy down because he's throwing shots from every position, man, and he'll put you out. I really like Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I think he made a really big statement. I don't think that Cody Brundage is exactly a super high pedigree opponent to really write off from Mikhail, but it's a really good win, to say the least. And then Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres, my boy, just putting on for the people. Just putting on for the people. I mean, masterclass performance. He came out, and you could feel it from his walkout. I mean, this guy came and was so prepared for this fight. This is a fight that he's probably, had on the table for a long time. It's probably, known he's going to do it. And he just came out and knew exactly what to execute. Came out, landed kicks to the body, was keeping his distance, was touching him with the jab, and then just absolutely Leon Edwards them. I mean, stuck the two out, same side, head kick, splatter, one shot, bang. He's making bank. I think I heard someone talk about that. Yeah, Alex Caceres has been in the UFC a long time. That's what happens when you stick around this long. You make bank, and you make bank because you come out and you put on performances like this. Not a lot of guys can last in the UFC this long and keep doing stuff like this. Can't get enough of Bruce Leroy. I think that he deserved that 50K, every piece of it. What do you got about those two?
Yeah, starting with Mikhail Oleksiejczuk versus Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage is definitely in a tough spot after that because I don't really know where he's going. It seems like he's up and down, up and down. And then the UFC threw him to an absolute berserker last night in Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I mean, he's got melatonin in his hands because he touches these dudes and they're just sleeping. The fight was close. Brundage took him down. All it took was 10 seconds for Oleksiejczuk to flip the position, get on top, and rain just some absolutely brutal ground and pound. I don't know how his arm was getting to some of these spots, and he was keeping them pretty short and crisp with the punches too. But either way, that guy's scary and dedicated. Now at middleweight, he's down from light heavyweight, so he's making that effort to stay on top of his weight. I think he's really going to be a problem in that division. And then going forward, Bruce Leroy. Come on now. That's one of those you guys forgot about me because he's that dude, and this was a classic Bruce Leroy performance. The power, I mean, that was a little bit surprising. I thought it would have been a little bit more back and forth, but Caceres just had his number last night. He was hitting him with good shots. And then that finishing move, what a beauty. He throws the cross, but intentionally misses the cross. If you had been watching, you were seeing Erosa pull his head back on that too. Hit him with it. The balance, the coordination, incredible. Follows through with that back left and ends the night early. So great performance there. Alex Caceres, Geeks Chat alum. What a dog.
Super dog. I mean, let's move into these last three fights here. We had Amir Albazi coming out against newcomer Alessandro Costa. Costa looked good in the first round. It was competitive, but Amir started to dial in, really landed a devastating uppercut to put him away. That was a really great fight, until it wasn't third round knockout. Good job, Amir Albazi. You were minus 500, so he did as assumed he would do, which is put away the lesser competition. Moving into the co-main, Arman Sarukian versus Damir Ismagulov. Not the barn burner exactly everyone thought it was going to be, but Arman Sarukian just proved that this guy, he's super legit, man. I mean, Damir is a menace on the feet, and Arman was hanging around, competing with him. And that's all you got to do when you've got wrestling and grappling like Arman does. So you can hang around on the feet, take a couple shots, land a couple shots, but at the end of the day, you're the one mixing it up, dictating the pace of the fight. And that's what Arman Sarukian did. He really dictated that fight and was in control of it for the majority of the time. So pretty safe decision. Bet for Arman Sarukian. Yeah, ceiling is super high. And then, going straight into this main event for me, I was just literally lost. Like, I'm not even gonna. I was watching the fight. I had no idea how to score this fight. I still haven't went back and watched it again, but I did have a feeling Cannonier was like edging out a couple of them. But I honestly thought it was 2-2 entering the fifth round, and it was really anybody's fight to win. And the fifth round was the same as 1 through 4. So I mean, it was interesting to see the judges give it to Jared Cannonier with all that output that Strickland was putting on him. That jab was really landing. And it really did seem like Cannonier was, affected more by those jabs. It was just, repetitive touch, touch, touch. But at the end of the day, Jared Cannonier was landing the bigger strikes. And everything, all those flurries that Strickland had were just hitting the guard. So nothing too impactful on Strickland's side. I kind of like to see the judges not playing that jab too much into effect because it really isn't that damaging. Like, you look at Jared Cannonier post-fight, the guy looks fine. So I like to see them giving those rounds to the aggressor in a sense. I do think that Cannonier was the much more dangerous guy, moving strong around and really just having more success to the body and whatnot. So, and the leg kicks, you got to play those leg kicks in the factor of these decisions. So what are you thinking about these last 3 fights? I know you kind of had Amir Albazi booked on that one, so not a big surprise. But what about these last 2?
Yeah, I'll even touch on Albazi Costa a little bit just because that is what is going to happen if the UFC puts these veterans against guys making their debut. And testament to Costa, because he could have won the first round. It was very close. He is a good prospect. But as time goes on in these fights against veterans, you see their experience take over. And Albazi was really starting to put it on him in the second round there and got the finish in the third, which is kind of what you expect in that matchup. Sarukian, he really put on a good dominant performance. Like you said, not the most entertaining, but for 2 just extremely high level mixed martial artists, for Sarukian to get the 30-27, it shows he is that guy who he says he is. And he's going to get a big fight his next time out, because he took a chance here, fought a guy that nobody wants to fight, and I would have to imagine the UFC is going to reward him. I'm going to guess it's going to be someone like Fiziev because I still don't see the Gaethjes and the Poiriers really stepping up to take that fight. So a guy like Fiziev or someone up there is gonna end up getting stuck with Arman and having a battle. And then main event, fight was close, man. There were 5 rounds. I was confident after about 2 of them, and they were split in my head, the rounds I was confident in. So, I mean, depending on the day, depending on the judge, it could have been Strickland's night, it could have been Cannonier's. Last night, the judges gave it to Cannonier. I think that just because Cannonier showed a little bit more urgency. He was constantly the one trying to push the fight and come forward and hit flurries. Strickland was doing more of his punches, 1, maybe 2 or 3 punch combos. And then he would put some damage on Cannonier, but he was definitely not in a rush to follow it up. He was kind of walking up to Cannonier and letting the fight sort of get at a standstill for a second, where Jared Cannonier, if he ever thought he hit Sean Strickland good, he was following it up, throwing punches in bunches. And I believe that's why he got it done on the scorecards. Overall, great night of fights. I thought the commentary was this was a good combo for them. Brendan Fitzgerald, Paul Felder, and Dom Cruz. You get a little bit of a different analytical version when these guys are on. They get a little bit more philosophical. They're giving their thoughts on what's going down, whereas DC Bisping and Rogan seem to be very by the book, looking at the fight as it is. And then Anik, he's the GOAT as always. But Fitzgerald, Dom Cruz, and Paul Felder made it fun on the commentary tonight for sure.
No, yeah, 100%. And I mean, I guess a couple of takeaways from the card that I'm gonna kind of shout out here is I don't really think that Sean Strickland's as crazy as people really think, because I honestly, looking back at the fight, I just see so many opportunities where Strickland had success coming forward and letting combos eat, and he really just wasn't doing it. Like, I feel like that really was his fight. It was right there for him to win, and he really just didn't take it. So I mean, he can go on his Instagram and talk about the judges, do whatever, but every time he let those hands eat and was trying to punch and bunch, he was having success. So the I don't know why he steered away from that. I don't know what he felt in Jared Cannonier. Maybe it was his power on the backside that had him very hesitant. But that's not exactly the American Psycho that people like to claim him as. So I would really like to see Sean Strickland be more aggressive. Never think you'd have to say that, right? I need to see Sean Strickland be more aggressive, and it's true. I do think he needs to come forward in these matchups more. I think he's going to learn from that, the same way kind of Jared did from Izzy. So, and then that's one of my key takeaways. And then Drew Dober is ready. Drew Dober is ready. 155. He's coming. It's been a long time cooking, but this run he's on now, it's real. And he's coming, bro, because he can fucking eat a shot and he will land shots. So anybody with a even slightly sus chin, watch out, because the Dober chin is inbound. And then, my final takeaway is Rafa Garcia is a dog. Okay, that guy was literally bleeding for 3 straight hours, and that's just insanity. So those are my 3 takeaways. Brian Battle, come on back. Fix yourself. Don't get a matchup like that. Keep yourself in a striking, favorable matchup. You can't rely on your jiu-jitsu that hard, but still a tough dude. Those are my kind of takeaways. You got any takeaways in particular you're trying to shout on this one?
This card, not really, man. It was a wild card. MMA is a wild game. But last card of the year, the geeks aren't going to stop, though. We're going to keep coming out with that content. 2022, big year for the geeks. 2023, the takeover starts. Let's go.
Let's go. We got our foot in the door, multiple promotions. We appreciate everyone that lets the geeks ride. We're going to be, continuing to attack events all throughout the year next year. We're going to get into bigger events. We're going to be at more events, more content. I mean, you guys already know we've been dropping videos like crazy. So stay tuned, man. We got big things coming. And watch out for a Hidden Lotus appearance, maybe a Bruce Leroy segmentation. Yeah, that's right, boys. We're trying to get down there to 305. We're going to see the kid. So thanks for tuning in. That's the recap.
Let's go. UFC Orlando vlog coming to you soon too. Bang.